Okay, right at the beginning here, this is going to be a pretty chill video. I didn't have a solid idea for this one, so I thought about it a little bit and I found a cool art challenge called Huevember, where basically every day there is a different hue and you're supposed to make that sort of the centerpiece of whatever it is you're making. So that's what we're doing today, and today's hue on the 5th of November, which is when I'm recording this, is sort of like a nice orangey yellow, and that's honestly kind of perfect because orange is my favorite color. So the way I decided to go with this is whenever I think of like the hue of orange, which we'll be seeing a lot of in this video, my immediate thought is like a sunset. I didn't want to really do just a standard sort of sunset, so I decided I was going to try to do some like digital painting, which I've actually never done before. I always do like digital drawing and art, which, you know, is still fairly new to me, but I wanted to try out this sort of new form of digital art. So what I did was I basically went into the oils section of my brushes that I've downloaded, and I really wanted to try to do sort of like digital oil painting, which is super out of my comfort zone. And the direction for subject I went was, because I have to make this sort of yellowish orange the centerpiece of the whole piece, I decided I was going to go with sort of like a desert theme and like a silhouetted, like two cactuses in the front and then like a nice sky behind it that was predominantly this color. So here, what I'm doing is I'm swapping over to those oil brushes and I'm actually testing a bunch of them out because I've never used them before and I don't know what they do. And then this is me putting in a mute version of the orange that we're mainly using. So the sort of in between that lighter and darker orange is the one that is technically the Huevember shade. And what I'm doing is I'm just kind of taking in this palette knife brush and just swiping it in here. This was super interesting for me to try out because it's a completely different process than sort of standard like digital drawing for me. I usually draw very cartoony whenever I'm doing digital, and I've, because of that, never really done this sort of thing. This is very fluid, very painty, and in fact, I'm not very good at painting in real life. I always draw with like either pencil and paper or pen and paper. And so using this as sort of my medium was way out of my comfort zone. I struggled mostly in this to sort of like figure out how to separate out the muddiness because the sunset that I was sort of referencing had a lot of like darker clouds sort of like crossing this like lighter background. And because of the way sort of the oil paints worked for me, it ended up getting very muddy, and I had to try to find ways around that. Here I'm popping in some brighter yellow because I thought it got too brown. While I go ahead and fill in some of this skyline, and I'm playing around with these brushes, I would like to talk about the channel for just a second. I've noticed there's a significant drop in viewership recently. I don't know what that's really about, but, you know, things happen. But I would like to say that I'm going to be moving my upload schedule so that instead of posting normally when I do on Fridays at 9 a.m., I'm going to be moving that to Saturdays at 9 a.m. because of my class schedule this term and just generally how busy I am. That being said, we should still have weekly uploads and everything else should be normal. I would also really like to hear your guys' suggestions or for videos that I might be able to do. I've been doing a lot of art recently, but if there's any suggestions for non-art videos that you'd like to see, then definitely throw them my way. If you see anything that's going on YouTube or maybe trending, then definitely let me know if you find it interesting, because I will always be willing to do something that people who watch this channel like. I'd really like to grow the channel and end up with a lot of community involvement, because I think that that's sort of the best thing about YouTube, is that an audience can directly talk to the creator and have input on the types of videos that are made. Anyways, all the channel stuff aside, let's get sort of back to the topic at hand, which is this drawing. Okay, so we're gonna speed some things up here now because before that it was going a little slow. So I'm now going to basically just really get these clouds in, and I actually decide I don't have enough clouds and decide that basically, I don't know, the reference was very streaky and I thought that was pretty cool. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna just bop some streaks in here. It looks really bad at the beginning, I have to say. I put them in and I was like, oh man, it kind of looks like I just kind of rubbed poop on the canvas. But after that I was like, maybe I can make this work. I think I can make it work. So I started smudging them, moving around, and then, not gonna lie, I got a little disheartened by it, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna swap to the foreground. Silhouettes are easy. And so I started getting those in. I started putting in just the very like rough shapes of everything. The cactuses are pretty easy because they're very just big ovals basically. But after I got in those rough shapes, after I got everything sort of the larger areas marked in, I started doing this like grass texturing on the ground and like trying to make it look like there were plants that were silhouetted. And I actually ended up really liking this. Like, out of all the things, this was probably the closest to just drawing normally. But the oil paint brush, when very small, actually makes a very nice texture for like, sort of like, I guess, silhouetted plants or just grass in general. So I ended up with something that I very much liked for the silhouetting of these like bushes and like burrs and rocks and everything down here. They're all very dry plants because desert, so it ended up quite nice. There's also a little smaller one of those like palette cactuses. I don't actually know what any of them are called, but over there to the left that I plopped in. But after I put in the foreground, I actually felt a lot better about the background. It still doesn't look great, but it did sort of frame it and make it feel more finished. I then made the sketch invisible. I just put the opacity all the way down and started messing again with these streaks. I threw in some more streaks, thinking, you know, maybe I can fix it with that. And then I start playing around with like some blur settings. I decide that like maybe if I just motion blur it, then it'll like pull these streaks as if they were clouds, like blowing the wind. And then I turn the opacity down, and that actually helps quite a bit. And after this, I feel a little less disheartened and feel comfortable on, you know, continuing forward a little bit. So at this point, the piece is getting to the end position. It's not quite there though. I decided the cactuses are a little toothy because of the brush that I used. So I actually go in and do like some fine tuning of just like cleaning up the edges, trying to make them more solid, filling in some of the parts. And then I go in with a different type of smudging brush and I just like sort of fluff the clouds on the bottoms. Which after I do all of that, that's basically the whole piece, and this is it. This is my sort of take on the orange day of Huevember. As always, thanks for watching this video, and remember to like, subscribe, and share with your family, your friends, and that weird neighbor down the street. Also, if you like what I do here, be sure to check out my Patreon to help out. And until next time, I hope everyone has a nice day.